Josiah, I just Googled fun fact of the day, just for a fun little way to kick us off.
What's today's fun fact?
Did you know, this is what Google says, did you know that despite its thick ice, Antarctica is classified as a desert because of how little moisture falls from the sky?
I did, which you'd think there's some kind of storms or snow, because if it was snowed a lot, it wouldn't be a desert, but I guess that means there's cactuses and rattlesnakes and stuff too.
There has to be. That's what a desert is.
Right?
The inner regions of the continent receive an average of 2 inches of precipitation in the form of snow every year. That's more rain than in the Sahara. Who knew? You just learned something.
I did. I didn't realize it was that little. So basically it's just cold and maybe windy, and that's about it.
Cold and dry, but you're on lots of wet. Frozen, dry, wet.
Sure. You're on the wet instead of under the wet.
Exactly. Everybody, welcome to Learn Me Something, the competitive podcast where we compete to present the better topic. Whew, that was not my best run of that little summary. Every episode, there's a winner and a loser. Josiah lost last episode. So, Josiah, why don't you tell us about your experience with the punishment?
Yeah, I had to only drink my food for the past 2 days. And
That sounds horrible.
I'm just on the end of it. So after this, I'm going to eat my first solid food in 2 days. I feel like a baby over here. Just have been drinking. So far, my tally is, I really haven't eaten that much. I had a total of 2 protein shakes. I had some greens, powder mixed in water. I've made 2 smoothies. I had literally an entire Vitamix full of smoothie liquid yesterday.
Ugh,
still didn't do much for me. I was still hungry, and I was like, I can't drink anymore. It was a weird feeling, because I guess
this punishment is just mostly
still
fasting.
hungry, but I was like, I cannot have any more smoothies. Basically. And then I also had some bone broth that I pretended was soup yesterday.
Delicious. I'm not going to lie. I desperately did not want to lose this one. So
desperately.
It just sounds horrible.
Yesterday was pretty hard because I stopped. I had dinner and then 2 days ago. I had dinner 2 days ago. Yeah. And then tonight I'll have my first solid food. So that yesterday the whole day was tricky, but today's been pretty smooth sailing. I feel like I'm over the hump. They say when you're fasting, first day is pretty hard and then it gets easier. Yeah. Until it gets really hard. But I guess I have been trying to ingest as many calories as I can, but feels like I'm fasting a little bit.
Basically, this punishment was just fast, but you're allowed to have juice.
That's
what it seems like.
Yeah. But
that's so fun.
I'm doing good now. I could do another day. I'm not going to, but I could.
Okay. Well, I was going to say, where's your energy level? Because I feel like that could be a boost for me this episode.
Yeah. Yesterday, right in the mud. Today, I'm feeling normal. Yeah, woke up feeling great.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right.
So get ready.
Okay, I'm ready. I just ate some string cheese. I have energy for the next 45 minutes off of that.
Okay. I had my smoothie and protein shake earlier, and I still got so much more energy than you.
Okay, whatever. Says the loser. Burn. I'm going to start. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
We're just diving right in this episode.
Dig in.
Okay. Picture this. I'm going to set the scene for us. In the wake of World War I, a new battle begins in the lowly wheat fields of Western Australia. And as the military is called in, they face a collective enemy that is faster and bigger and tougher and smarter than anything they have faced before. The year is 1932, and it marks the beginning of what is now known as the Great Emu War, when the Australian government...
Story.
Do you know it?
I love this story.
Yeah. Yes, it's so fun. When the Australian government waged war against an army of flightless birds and lost. That's my topic for the day.
So good. I'm excited to hear. It's been a while since I've heard this story. I'm excited to hear more.
I was going to say, this has been I think they released a film last year, like not a super popular movie, but I think that caused a resurgence in people talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
So I've had this topic listed in my ideas notes for like a year, and I
Yeah,
finally was
me
just
too.
like, you know what? Seems like it's time.
Today's the
So
day.
let me give some backstory. Our story begins at the end of World War One, which was 1918, I believe. So thousands of Australian veterans who had been fighting in the war, they returned home, and it was a pretty rough situation. They were pretty largely unemployed. They didn't have a lot of them didn't have houses or properties to return to, and the government was just doing a terrible job of caring for these ex-soldiers. So they're starting to face increasing pressure from the people to provide aid to these veterans. So eventually they hatch this plan, and the idea is, which thousands of veterans took advantage of, was to create a program where these soldiers would be given a small chunk of property. I think I read the average is like around 10 acres. So not a ton of land, not a ton of property. And then
Right,
they're
right.
told to go grow, harvest, and sell wheat. So essentially, the government's like, we'll give you land. You're going to be wheat farmers. You're going to help the economy. All that seems like a pretty solid deal. Australia has lots of open space. These soldiers need homes and jobs. Works out great. Except there's a few main problems. One, the land was not great, so the soil was really bad. It was full of like vermin, predator animals that are coming in and kind of eating the crops and stuff. So they're constantly dealing with that type of situation. Two, the soldiers were complete wheat noobs, so they were soldiers, so none of them knew how to farm or farm wheat, especially. So they're
Right.
dumped into this situation, and they're like, oh, we have to all of a sudden learn this whole new trade, and none of us know what we're doing. So they're on bad soil, bad land, and they also have no idea what they're doing. Number three, the third issue, is that the Great Depression is on the horizon. So
Mm.
when it hits Australia really hard, and it hits the veterans harder than most because wheat, essentially in Australia, like halves in value. I think it just tanks, which makes a lot of these soldiers want to throw in the towel, quit the farm life, but the country still needs wheat. So there's all these issues going on. They're rapidly approaching this. And then finally, number four, the fourth issue here with this wheat farmer idea is that the farmers didn't realize this at the time, but the land that they had been given was actually in enemy territory. Enter the emus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
What do you know about emus?
Like an ostrich, but not an ostrich. Um,
Yeah, that's essentially it. Also, have you pronounced it emu or emu?
I go emu.
Okay. You're such an American. Just
Oh,
kidding.
really?
I had to Google it because I wasn't sure. Apparently, that's how we say it, but the actual Australians
Emu?
pronounce it emu.
I feel like emu is like the British way to say it, and emu is the American way. I was feeling very, like classy saying emu. It's like saying
It's an emu.
vase instead of vase. You know, that's how I thought it was.
I don't think I've said either word, vase or vase. I've never. Have you ever
What do you
seen
call
Have you seen one in
a
public?
vase?
Yeah.
A vase, like a pot that holds flowers.
Yeah. I just call it a pot. Have you
Oh,
ever
don't call it a
referred to
vase?
it? Okay. I mean, I'm happy you use it. I don't think I've used vase as a term
All
very
right.
much.
All right, only in private. Sure. Okay.
Here's some
emu.
emu. Yep, emu facts. So it's the second largest living bird. I didn't look up the largest, but I'm assuming it's the ostrich. That seems fair.
Yeah,
right?
I think so. Yeah.
It is the largest bird in Australia. It's flightless, so it looks like a bird, but just runs around. They average, this was crazy to me, they average 5'7" tall, or
Okay.
1.75 meters for our international listeners. But they
Okay.
can be as tall as 6'5", which I just can't picture a bird that big. I just can't.
Terrifying. It's
Yeah,
terrifying.
super scary. So the males weigh from 110 pounds to 121 pounds, and the females weigh like 11 pounds more than that on average. They can
Oh,
sprint.
okay.
They're sprinter
Yes.
birds. They can run up to 30 miles an hour, and they
That
can
is
travel great
terrifying.
distances. Yeah. So picture a 6'5" tall bird that's running the speed of a car, and it's like that'd be so scary. Anyway,
That's like if it's
they all,
running down a residential neighborhood, it's going too fast.
yeah,
Speeding.
it's gonna get a speeding ticket for sure.
If it's running in town, getting pulled over.
Police
Crazy.
not having that. They're also incredibly resilient, so they have really strong hides underneath their feathers, and they can go weeks without eating if they need to, and they can drink infrequently if they need to. They're
Okay.
also incredibly smart and incredibly agile. So not only can they run fast, but they can move really fast. They can get to running very quickly.
Okay.
Great speed bursts. All of this is important to the story of the Great Emu Wars, but the most important factor is that they migrate. So a good chunk of the year, they live deep in the wilderness of Australia, especially during like their breeding season and stuff. And then depending on the season and the water requirements, variety of things, at some point they end up migrating towards the coasts, and they migrate as one cohesive unit, or like huge flocks. An army, you could say.
Okay.
So there's the scene. Let's set up the lead up to the Great War. So to recap, tensions are high with the government and the veterans. The government has not done well in caring for the veterans, and people have noticed. And the Great Depression has now hit. It's made its way to Australia, and it's devastated the value of wheat, and hitting the veterans harder than it hits a lot of people because they're the suppliers of the wheat. And in the midst of all of this, this like kind of perfect storm of badness, a drought hits the land, and it drives wildlife to migrate in greater force than usual. So all this boils up to a climax in the conflict in 1932. I picture there's this little farmer boy who's looking out the dusty window of his humble farmhouse, and he's looking out to the hills, and he's got fear in his eyes, and he's watching this army of the enemy, larger in number than he's ever seen in years past, crest the mountainside at a full run, coming to take back their feeding lands. It's an emu army, and
Lord of the Rings moment for sure.
yeah, you just hear the rumbling of these huge 100+ pound birds, and they're just like, they're coming, and it's scary. And they estimate that the army was about 20,000 emus strong, which
Crazy.
I can't even fathom seeing, because they're the size of humans, some taller than the average human, and just having 20,000 of them just all of a sudden taking over your land, it'd be incredibly intimidating, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and apparently they love the taste of wheat, so they're just
And blood.
devastating, destroying, wrecking havoc on all of these lands. And these veteran farmers who are already like, we don't really know how to farm, we're just doing our best out here. And it's the Great Depression, and it's a drought, and we have bad soil, and there's other animals trying to take over our land. All of it's just too much. So they do what they can to try to stop them. They put up fences. Doesn't matter. Emus are too strong. They destroy the fences and get in, allowing other vermin like rabbits to also come in and wreak havoc. And then they also do their best to fend them off by gun, but the farmers by this point are very poor and ill-equipped. They don't have the resources or ammunition to fend off such a huge attack. And they're just like totally, completely overrun, don't stand a chance. So their only option in 1932 is to turn to the government that deserted them in these like harsh, borderline uninhabitable lands. And then the government's only option, because they're facing political pressure for the last decade to give aid to these veterans, so their only option is to respond. And so we get this awesome saga of the Emu Wars, because the government does the only thing it really can. It sends in the military. I just think this story is so fun.
It's great. It's great.
Yeah. So the actual military that the government sends in is the 7th Heavy Battery of the Royal Australian Artillery. And
sounds intense. Sounds like they know what they're doing.
Yeah, it sounds like they chant a lot, right? That's kind of what I picture. And they have perfect...
Yeah, they're very royal.
Oh, yeah.
But they also are bloodthirsty.
Vicious. It's a little... most things I've read said that there were 3 of them. But I did read 1 or 2 sources that said there were more. So it could be that there's 3 main guys, and then they had kind of backup help that are less important. Or that there were 3 main guys, and then the actual veterans who owned the land stepped in. Because we know they stepped in and helped. And so that could have been what contributes to this army versus army situation. But the 3 brave men are Sergeant S. McMurray and Gunner J. O'Halloran. And then the 7th was led by Major Gwynedd Purves Ween Aubrey Meredith, which is a lot
Robot
to say.
name much?
We're gonna call him Meredith, I think.
Okay. Meredith.
Yeah. So they come in and they have 2 fully automatic Lewis machine guns, which are World War I era machine guns, super heavy duty, and then they also bring 10,000 rounds of ammunition to supply the machine guns and also help supply the veterans so that they can kind of form this responding army. So, on one side, you've got the emus, who this is their territory. They come here every year when they migrate, and because of the drought, they're coming in an intense way. And then you've got these few military guys with some heavy artillery and a small army of ex-soldier veterans that are just trying to survive on their farmland.
Right.
This is the matchup.
Vicious battle.
Yeah, I forgot to mention they sent a filmmaker. So the government was so convinced that this was going to be such an easy job that they sent a filmmaker with the military to film kind of the whole process, because the thought is the government needs to show the people that they're actually helping like they said they would. And so they're like, this is going to be an easy win. Let's send a crew. Let's get some footage. It'll be perfect. Support our cause. Convince people we're doing good things. Little did they know, the actual experience was not ideal. So, we've got our military, and it's November 2nd of 1932, and we are going to war against the emus, going to win our wheat fields back before we lose all of our wheat. The military men are informed that the emus will stay together, they'll stick together, so their plan, they're about to mount a huge offensive. Their plan is to just get close to the emus and then open fire, and the emus, 20,000 strong, will be together, and it'll just be a bloodbath. They'll just slaughter them. One day, in and out, quick, we handled this, you're welcome. We brought our machine gun, good to go. So they go out there, and they've got the veteran help. So they've got the military men with their machine guns, and the veterans with their guns now have ammunition. The army goes out there, they find the emu, they're like, all right, let's do it, here we go. They open fire, And immediately the emu army splits into small groups and sprints in different directions. And they moved so fast and in such small groups that the machine gun just was instantly ineffective. And so first day of fighting was a complete failure. I think I read that they killed, out of 20,000, they killed maybe a dozen-ish.
Wow.
Not great. Not enough to make an impact by any means.
Right.
So they got to regroup now. And it's like, all right, we lost the first battle. The emus won. They escaped. They're maybe more clever than we thought. We got to regroup and strategize. So they take a couple of days.
One of those tents where all the general comes in and they have a map with like little wood blocks
100%.
Or they're pushing around with a
They're
stick.
shifting. All right, we got emus here. If we flank them from behind.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Push
definitely
this here.
what's happening.
You come around here. The mountainside here will help us. They'll probably come this way.
Yeah. We gotta push them up against this cliffside. It'll be perfect. I'm also picturing that they're like really harsh. Like, in military movies when they're super intense. Even though they're just fighting emus, I still picture them the same way. Like, come on!
After the first day for sure, because they're realizing, this is gonna be a lot more difficult than we thought.
Well, they got beat by a bunch of big flightless birds. Yeah, so now they're like, oh man, we're gonna have to figure this out. Otherwise, we're gonna get mocked up the wazoo.
Mm-hmm.
So they take a couple days to kind of regroup and strategize and stuff, and they realize that they need a different strategy. They decide that their problem is that the machine gun it was too far away. And they're like, we got to find a way to get close to him so that when we open fire, the machine gun will be much more effective. So that's the plan.
Sure.
So they take one machine gun and they very slowly, very carefully establish an ambush at a water source that's like at the base of a dam. So they sneak in there. It's really kind of painstakingly slow. And they find a good place to camp out, good place to hide, and they just tuck in and wait. And they wait and wait and wait. It's a very slow operation, but finally it works. So they're already at the water source hiding, and then they send the veterans out, and the veterans are kind of able to corral the birds slowly around over to this water source. So it's this. It's exactly what they would have planned in the tent. We gotta set up an ambush. Sure. We got to bring them around to push them right into our ambush, and we got them. It'll be literally point blank range. And it works. All the birds come in, they see the water, they come down to the water. The military men are getting like stoked. Meredith is like, I am so smart. This is perfect. We're going to kill thousands in a single day. And pack up camp, call it a night. It's going to be so easy. And they wait till it's about point blank range with this huge heavy machine gun, and they open fire, and they kill about a dozen birds, and they're like, the machine gun scenes where it's like shaking, and the guy's like laughing because he's kind of crazy, like ah.
Yeah. You get Johnson on the machine gun because he's crazy.
Oh yeah, get Johnson up there. He'll take him out. And so they do. They open fire, they kill a few, and then almost immediately the machine gun jams. And then the time it takes for them to fix it, all of the birds split up into smaller groups again and escape. So attempt number 2, we'll call it battle number 2.
Sure.
No dice.
This is
again.
A war. Okay.
Yeah. They kill about a dozen. By this point, they've killed maybe 30 out of 20,000 birds. And this
very
is
slow start.
Yeah, 2 very full days of battle.
Yeah.
So now these soldiers are like, we were told that all we needed was a machine gun and then just shoot them. That's all we thought it was going to be. And we were going to be out of here in a week. And they're just getting, excuse my language, Mom, they're just getting their butts kicked. And it's epic and awesome. And I'm rooting for the birds. It kind of feels like a open range type uh, situation. That's the name of that movie, right? It's not a Disney movie. Pixar, maybe?
Are you talking about Over the Hedge?
Nope. Have you seen... That's a good one, too, but a different situation.
That's like Animals versus People. Starts with an O.
Have you seen... I think it's called Open Range. Let me look it up.
Open Range.
It's literally about
Emu War?
No, it's about hunters and animals, and then the animals like team up.
Oh, it looks like a movie.
Wait, am I
Kevin
making
Costner?
this up? Kevin Costner. It's an animated film.
Oh, this one is not animated. It looks like a Western. Looks like they're getting ready to shoot some stuff.
This is super embarrassing. Intriguing. What am I looking for here? Is it Open Range? I'm looking up.
Give me a little more. Open Season?
It's Open Season.
Oh, okay.
That's what I'm looking for. Oh,
sure.
That was going to be really embarrassing.
Also a good one. Very
okay,
good,
so you're
actually.
familiar?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. All that to say, now that we figured out the name of this random movie, it just feels like it's an open season situation. Like, the animals are like, it's us against the hunters. We got
They're
this.
scheming.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They've got a tent of their own with a map of their own. And,
exactly. So they're like 4 days into this, and they've only killed a few. And so then the soldiers and the veterans, they note that the emus are actually responding to the danger strategically, which is insane to me. So now, instead of being in big groups like they're used to, they split off. This is what the military guys reported, that they're splitting off into really small groups, and then each group had like a team lead, and the team lead would lead the group and watch for danger while the rest of the group ate the wheat. And so they had this whole new strategy where they were in it's called like I'll read some quotes in a minute here, but it's like guerrilla warfare. They've split up into small little chunks and are getting really strategic instead of one big army. And it's just super interesting. Which leads the military to try a new strategy again. So this is going to be attempt number 3. They bring in a military truck, and they mount the machine gun onto the truck. So now they're like, okay, here we go. We had a hard time getting into them, so now let's drive a truck where we can get up to them really quickly and stick with them.
Right. Makes sense.
Shoot them as they run, keep driving alongside them. Not a problem for the emus. They split into even smaller groups, so the truck can only chase a few emus at a time, and the emus were significantly faster than the trucks. So they got a second truck, and they tried to just ram the emus and run them over. They reinforced the front. That's very dark. But that was like the war strategy.
Mad Max. They're like, just build. You seen Mad Max? Just build a Mad Max vehicle. That's our best bet.
Like, you know what? Forget the gun. Let's just take them out with the trucks themselves. Yeah.
You know what? Just grab a spear. Just jump on one. Just grab a Bowie knife.
It's
crazy.
We'll just jump on top of them. We'll ride one emu and kill the others.
Right.
But they get the truck. Can't keep up with the emus, so they try to just drive up quickly to them and run them over. But then they crash, like, almost immediately. They just crash the truck. So this was the embarrassingly bad first attempt of the Australian military to deal with the emu situation. November 8th, literally less than a week later, the soldiers are withdrawn. Is because the press got a hold of the situation and everyone was like mocking them because it was such an embarrassing failure. So they get pulled. The government's like, this was a mistake. I knew I couldn't trust Meredith. And the report that they gave at the end of the 6 days, that about 50 to 200 emus were killed after 1 week. out of the 20,000 that they were sent to kill. So just an embarrassing loss. But one of them, one of the military guys said, on the bright side, because everyone was talking about it as a war, like the news got a hold of it and they were referring to it as the Great Emu War. And so the military guys kind of jumped in on the fun, and they were like, if you think about it, we didn't lose anybody. So we didn't kill many of them, but we had no casualties on our end. So we call that a win.
It's slow and steady. As long as we're doing okay, we can do this forever.
Yeah. But we'll never actually take out all of these emus. So the news and the press, they get a hold of it. They cover it. Here's some funny quotes that I found. Here's one that says, "No treaty of peace has been concluded, and the emus remain in possession of disputed territory. It is therefore expected that regular military operations will be followed by guerrilla warfare, which may continue for years and may be accompanied by stories of horrible atrocities. The emu commander is maintaining a studied silence as to his future plans, but it is understood that he is much impressed with the capacity for resistance shown by raw troops and confident that they will continue to uphold the best traditions of the race. He is credited with the intention to arrange for a suitable poem to commemorate the emu glory on the field of Campion," which is where they've been fighting. That's so good. And then here's another.
It's real.
Yeah.
It's real.
It's real. It's a real thing. Even as it's happening in current day, they're already making fun of it. I feel like now there's maybe a delay, like things happen and then a few weeks later meme culture gets a hold of it, and they start mocking it. These guys
this is like memes, like some of the first memes. Like
yeah, maybe
not the first ones, but it's memes.
Yeah,
memes from 100 years ago. Yeah.
Another quote says, "The machine gunner's dreams of point-blank fire into serried masses of emus were soon dissipated. The emu command had evidently ordered guerrilla tactics, and its unwieldy army soon split up into innumerable small units that made use of the military equipment uneconomic. A crestfallen field force, therefore, withdrew from the combat area after about a month." And then someone asked...
a novel. That was like
it was beautiful.
Poetic. That was beautiful, yeah.
Uh-huh. And then someone asked a member of the Australian House of Representatives. So this is like a big deal back then. Like, this is like everybody knows about this. It's, a huge failure. Everyone's talking about it. It's sad for the veterans because, it was a massive failure and their wheat's still being destroyed. But everyone else is just kind of joking about it. But someone asked a member of the Australian House of Representatives if they would be giving out any medals for bravery. And they responded and said, "If anyone deserved medals from the conflict, it would be the emus, who have won every single round so far."
Despite casualties, they've still won.
Yeah, exactly.
There's you can't argue with that.
Nope.
Right.
Yeah. And then last quote, the leader, so Meredith, he has a comment to make, and I think he's trying to save face, and he's trying to, guys, it was actually really hard, please believe me. But he says, quote, I think this is my favorite one, "If we had a military division with the bullet-carrying capacity of these birds, it would face any army in the world. They can face machine guns with the invulnerability of tanks."
Yeah, because they're
okay, Meredith.
They're so dense.
Yeah.
I don't know. Did you say this already? That their bullets just won't even penetrate sometimes, or they'll just stick in their feathers.
Yeah. So their hides are so thick that unless you hit them in a certain way, they could literally just glance off. And some emus could be hit by many, many bullets without actually dying or even taking any serious damage or injury. So they're literally he wasn't lying. They are they're indestructible, kind of.
You have to aim for their weak spot, like Smaug in The Hobbit.
Yeah.
Like they have their chink in their armor, and you have to hit that, which I guess is
exactly.
Their heads are so tiny. There's no way you aim for that.
Well, it's funny you say that. One of the military guys, he even noted. He said it's almost like you have to shoot them in the back of the head or in the front of their head with their mouths open in order for them to actually die. So it's just wild. Like they just absolute slaughter. The emus won it through and it's no question. But so there's one more attempt made. The veterans are still losing their lands, and they keep complaining. And because it's so public, the government is like, okay, we gotta still try to do something. So they do what they do best. They make an incredibly mediocre decision. Yep, and they send in the 7th Heavy Battery. Same team, Meredith in control. They're just like, you know what? Let's just run it back. Let's do the exact same thing again. And this time they stay for about a month. They're a little bit more successful. But eventually, in a little less than a month, they're withdrawn for the second and final time because the government realized that the massive resources required to fight the army just wasn't worth it compared to the actual effectiveness of the plan. So the ammunition, the cost of them being over there, all of that just wasn't worth it. At the end of it, so you have 1 month and 1 week verse of effort to kill 20,000 emu. At the end of it, the leader Meredith claims that they had 986 confirmed kills with almost 10,000 rounds of ammunition before they had to withdraw. So about 10 bullets per emu. But
crazy.
Yeah. But reports from the veterans themselves, the farmers, they argued that Meredith had actually greatly exaggerated the number and that the actual kill count was significantly lower. So kind of seemed like Meredith saw the number of rounds that he used and was like, let's just boost the number of kills we say we got to make this less embarrassing.
Maybe I won't get fired.
Yeah, because they think the estimate is that they got about 100 kills per week, which would end up being somewhere around 500-ish.
Right. So he's like, one bird, 2 birds.
Yeah, it's
about twice as much.
Hard to know.
Just rounding up.
Exactly.
Really.
Hard to know for sure what the official number is. Let's just guesstimate.
Yeah.
So that, if you look at that number, averages out to about 20 bullets per bird, which is insane to me. And I'm sure a bunch of them missed and stuff, but still.
It's like sci-fi. It's like an alien invasion.
Yeah. She's like, we don't know how to take these things down. It seriously is like a crazy story. And so public and so much effort went into it. And it's just so funny. And it was such a failure that...
Did it stop after the 5th battle? Was the war over?
Yeah, it was over. So that's what I was going to say is after this, they withdrew them. And it was like, it's cost so much money. And you guys are getting nothing done. So they... the veteran farmers, they asked for help constantly, and the government almost always just said no to them because they're like, well, I'm sorry, we got nothing. Eventually, though, the government finally is like, you know what? Let's just give the veteran farmers, let's just give them ammo and then put a bounty on the heads of the emus. Like, let's just see if that's a more effective system. 6 months later, the veteran farmers had killed almost 60,000 emus, which is significantly better. So averages out.
How fast do they procreate? How fast do they
know. I do know that they are on some list in Australia listed as like least concerned with.
Yeah.
Because they're like, there's so many of these, we don't even care anymore. Yeah.
Sure.
And then eventually, over the course of like 15 years, I think they kill a couple 100,000 of them. Now, decades later, they've been able to kind of develop some fences that can adequately keep them away, and the land is more safe and it's less of an issue. But it's about, 15,000, 15 years of war, if you think about it, between these veteran farmers and the emus. And it's epic. And they kind of just lost.
Like at a standstill right now, it sounds like.
Yeah, with the fences, they established like a no man's land, and all bets are off. It's just kind of like neither of us are making ground here anymore.
Sure, just we won't bother you, you don't bother us.
Yep.
Well, maybe that's peace. Maybe that's a successful victory.
Maybe, yeah.
I don't know.
Or maybe the emus are just back there, just waiting,
maybe
building
they're waiting
up forces.
For just the right day.
Yeah, 2025, they're gonna sweep in with 2 million emus and just Dune style, and just see what happens.
They're gonna go for houses, everything,
yep.
Cars.
We're taking down the government even.
we're gonna stage a coup. Don't a bad time to be in Australia when that happens.
Yep. Watch out, Australians. It's a dangerous world for you over there.
Yeah,
there you have it. That's the Great Emu War. The Great Embarrassing Emu War.
They say Australia's a bad place to live because of like the critters and the spiders and just the scary things, and emus. Yep. They're one of them.
They are. Maybe one scary. Of the. They look less scary, and I think they're actually decently peaceful. I wouldn't be scared of one.
I know there's an emu farm, in your neck of the woods.
Yeah, there is.
Have you been there?
No, but I've heard about it.
Should go check it out.
There also is there are peacocks here too, which I find really interesting.
Yeah, did you know? Fun fact. Did you know? Because we were neighbors for a long time in the same neighborhood, all growing up. Did you know there was peacocks there? Like within 100 yards.
We could hear them from our house.
Yeah,
they would go.
That's pretty good. I didn't know they were peacocks for years, and my dad's like, "Oh, the peacocks are out," and I'm like, "What? Excuse me,
Dad? What? This is something you tell your son." Yeah, I didn't know about it for a long time either. That's interesting.
Yeah, I don't think they're around. Every time I would drive by, like visiting in town or something for the last few years, I never see them anymore. Do you know if they're still there?
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't heard them.
I went
the
to
old
war
call anymore.
They lost, probably.
They've joined the emus.
They joined the cause.
Yep.
Like, we've been living in peace too long. Help out our brothers.
Been sitting quietly for far too long. We have to go help our brethren. Well, there you have it.
Crazy story. I love it. That's something that's been in my list for a while too.
Yes. So happy I beat you to it.
So interesting. Patreon. We talked about on our Patreon, we have the nightclub, which is for patrons only, but you can get a 7-day free trial to listen to our conversations there in the nightclub. We talked about, or we played a game last time called Should I Have Done That?
That was super fun. They're essentially mini episodes. Yeah. So if you're looking for more content and are willing to drop a whole $1 a month, check out our Patreon.
Or free trial
but also, yeah.
Whatever. Yeah. It's fun. My story involved the leader of the Crips. Not the leader.
The leader.
A gang leader.
Yeah.
And your story. We need some follow up. Next nightclub, I'd like to hear some follow up about your story.
Adventures. There's some follow up to be had.
Oh, really?
Anyway, yeah.
Okay, I look forward to hearing about it.
Just so you know, Learn Me Something will always be free, but if you do want to help support us, we do appreciate it, and get some extra fun little content in there too. Yeah. So you can, as little as $1, as much as you want.
Do we need to cap
$10 million would be great, but
okay, that's the cap. $10 million is the cap.
Yeah, we don't need
no more than that. Okay,
please keep it under 10 million. All right, Josiah, what you got for us?
In 2005, a fishing boat set off from California for an overnight chartered fishing trip. The fishermen and fisherwomen on board had a blast. It was fun. They were just enjoying the sunshine, catching so many fish to bring home and stock their freezer with. Second day concluded, the boat docked, everyone got off, or so they thought. Patrick McDermott was missing.
No.
So it took 10 days for anyone to find out he was gone. He didn't, that 10th day after the boat docked, which he was on the passenger list. Mm-hmm. He didn't arrive to pick up his son from school, and people started noticing. And they went back, officials went back to the boat to investigate, and they found he left his tackle box with his wallet, license, and keys inside.
That's very suspicious.
And the reason he was most known was he was the ex-boyfriend of Olivia Newton-John, famous actress.
Great.
From back in the day. And she hadn't heard from him either. So this gained it was super popular in the news. People were like, what happened to him? It's this big mystery. And 3 years later, they closed up investigations and they concluded that he'd been most likely lost at sea. However, multiple investigators claim to have found him in Mexico or other countries in Central America, saying he was alive and well.
What is going on?
And they say he just wanted a new life and left everything behind that summer day in California and just wanted to start over. So, to this day, there's a little bit of dispute about whether he died or disappeared. But today, I'm going to be talking you through the steps of how to disappear as well, if you wanted to disappear.
Yeah, I don't want to, but I think it's ingrained in guys at least to want to think about it.
Yeah, it's one of those things you just plan for, just in case, So
that's so
as
fun.
A fellow guy,
I'm excited.
I'll talk you through it. I did a lot of research on this, maybe more than I have anything else, but there's so much that I'm lacking. So this is just going to be very general, rough ideas and guidelines, So if you're going to disappear, don't do some more research. This is just a starting point.
Give us
also,
some
nobody
best
should
practices.
Disappear unless you
have to. Stay where you are, unless
you should be fine.
Unless it seems fun enough.
Yeah, if it's a fun little thing to do, a little hobby. So why would someone want to disappear unless it's just a hobby? It's not a hobby. Somebody whose life is threatened might want to disappear. Somebody who's running from the law. Somebody with money problems, or somebody that just wants a fresh start, I guess.
Just like I'm tired of the way things have gone. I want to do over.
Yeah, can't take things. Just want to do the easy way out, which is not so easy, but you could do it. Don't recommend disappearing unless you're fearing for your life. Question: is it illegal?
Yeah.
It's not. It's not illegal as long as you... What?
I was just going to say the only thing I can think of is taxes. Or if you owe support to someone, like a kid.
There you go. Sure. So as long as you're paying your taxes and you're not running from the law, and as long as the government is okay, it's not illegal.
If they say you can.
If you ask Papa Sam and he says yes, it's fine.
Go have fun, buddy.
I've actually read you can go to the police and say you have no intention of being found just in case someone files a missing persons report.
No
As long as
way.
you're an adult and you're in right standing with the law and are of sound mind,
And they're
they'll
just
listen
like,
to you.
go have fun.
They're
So,
like,
oh,
okay,
that's interesting. Okay,
uh,
cool.
yeah, and I'm sure that depends on even the police station and state laws,
Sure.
but
They'll probably try to talk you out of it, that kind of thing.
probably.
Yeah.
So, for the sake of this topic, we're gonna pretend like someone's after you and wants to kill you.
Oh, okay.
And
Something I do
so we're
every
gonna
time I'm bored.
right. Good.
Something I think
This should be easy then. So we're gonna pretend like you're a spy who went to another country, and you came back to the U.S. and you know that people from that country are on your tail, and you're kind of always you need to disappear. You need to. Yeah, your safety is in jeopardy. Potentially, other people's safety is in jeopardy. And also, I just realized we're going to pretend the government is not helping you out. So
Okay.
you're a freelance spy, maybe.
Got it.
Just you're just doing it on your own. Maybe
You've gone Jason Bourne.
yeah, without the help of the government. Let's just say. So, do you have a spy name? What's your spy name?
Benson.
Benson. Listen.
Just one name.
Okay, Benson. Who's chasing you? What country?
The Netherlands.
Okay, the Netherlands. I've sent their goons after you, Benson.
They're after me.
So you might be thinking, what if, can I just fake my death? Would that be easier? Because then if they think I'm dead, they'll stop looking for me. You could.
I say no. I say that's harder.
Harder. Okay.
think.
You'd be right. So it's much more difficult. Plus, it's illegal. So you have more, basically more enemies. If you want to fake your death, you'll need to do a couple of things, and I'll tell you how to do that.
Good.
So first step is you have to find a country who's willing to play ball. You have to go there in person. Apparently, the Philippines is kind of notorious for this, especially the city of Manila.
Okay.
They've
got like an industry for it. Hey,
fake
you
death
fake your
market. Yeah.
I can
right.
do it for
Come
10% less than our competitors' rate.
Yeah. They have like YouTube ads over here. Oh, jeez. Okay. My mic just almost took a big tumble. Okay.
Whoa.
So then you need to make friends with somebody, connections with a medical examiner who wants a little payout or is willing to trade cash for an unclaimed body.
Sure.
So if you can't find a medical examiner that's shady, you could also walk into the morgue of a developing country and ask to see the unclaimed bodies, and then find one that like matches what you're looking for, start crying, really sell the story, say, hey, that's Caleb Fitzwater. They'll be like, okay, fill out the death certificate. Also, I just have to say again, I'm not endorsing any of this. I feel like I have to say that.
Every 5 minutes on this topic.
Yeah, I know. Just keep saying that again. Then you would come back to the States with your cremated body.
Okay.
And your death certificate, and your next of kin would need to confirm that you had died.
So they have to be on board.
Or they have to think you've died.
Okay.
So, yeah, not a good situation. And an American medical examiner would have to sign off. And if you had a life insurance policy, the insurance company would have to sign off. And if they see a body that's brought back from the Philippines, that's going to be a big red flag for them.
They're like, that's insurance.
We'll have to really investigate this. Exactly. So they're going to do their due diligence, really, really look into this. They're not going to pay out if they think it's fraud. They're going to, it can like take years of DNA testing and investigations to find out.
Sure.
Like to wait for a body to show up or.
Sure.
So it could take years. If you fake your death for the life insurance policy, it's basically not going to work out.
Yep.
Like it does in the movies. And if you want to be really effective, apparently the best way to do this to collect life insurance policy and fake your death is you'll need a body from one country, proof of an accident and cause of death in a second country, a passport from a third country, and a
Holy
beneficiary from a fourth country. That way, there's lots of confusions between governments, and it's easier for things to get lost, and all the information is spread out. Sure. So that's the best way to do it.
Okay.
Don't fake your death. That's not the way to do it. What about
Better
witness
go missing.
protection? Do you know much about witness protection?
That is government help, though. I thought we said that was off limits.
It is.
But yes, I
It
do
is.
know what it is.
For the sake of this, you're not in witness protection, but
we're just chatting about it.
we're just chatting about it. It seems like most of the time it's for criminals. It's like
informants.
Yeah, people who are set to testify on an important court case, but the opposition might have the means to take them out because they don't want them to testify. That's usually who witness protection is for. So a lot of times it could be criminals, could be just somebody who was in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Yeah. That'd be so interesting.
But this is kind of interesting. Since starting WITSEC, which is Witness Security, that's what it is, the Witness Security Program. Since starting it in 1971, they claim to have protected over 19,000 participants with a 100% success rate of participants staying alive and unharmed as long as they follow the rules. So they have all these rules. Can't do this,
That's
can't go
cool.
here. Yeah, it's very interesting.
I didn't realize it was that high of a success rate.
Yeah, perfect. If you follow the rules, you'll be fine. Basically, If you're part of this, and they're super secretive about it. Like you can't go to their website and do a step-by-step guide on how to be a protected witness.
How to be in witness protection. Yeah.
Yeah. They're pretty secretive about it. Obviously, they don't want
Step
people
one,
to.
our secret
their
home is in
strategies.
Georgia. Yeah.
Here are our safe houses.
Come to one of these. Check in.
Okay, so I just thought that was interesting. Here's
Yeah.
here's the steps.
Okay.
Not necessarily in order, but just some things to consider if you want to disappear. So the first thing that you would need to do, Benson, is find
That's
housing.
me. Okay.
So you need to find temporary safe housing. You could do a hotel or an extended stay hotel, just until you know what to do. Find a place where you can wait it out and figure out what to do next. If this is going to be like a long-term thing.
A game playing spot.
Exactly. You can call up a hotel and say, hey, I have an employee coming to stay, and pay for it with a business account using a fake name.
Okay.
That way you don't have to give your ID or anything.
Sure.
Hotels shouldn't ever give out personal information about guests, but you can totally do some it's called social engineering, almost like social hacking. I listened to this podcast where this guy knew his friend was staying in a hotel in a certain city somewhere near the airport, and he just called up hotels and said, hey, I'm from the business across the street. I have a delivery for this person. Is that an employee or a guest? And they're like, well, it's not an employee. And they're like, should I just, what room number are they staying in? And then they would look up, oh, they're not here. And he called 5 hotels and was able to find out exactly his friend's room number.
That's really smart.
Just because he introduced familiarity, I'm just the neighbor across the street, just something easy, just a quick delivery.
Yep, got some cupcakes in the car, ready to bring over. It's his birthday. Yep.
So that's kind of one reason it's important to keep all your data as secure as possible in a situation like this, because some well-meaning hotel employee could just blow your cover and it could all be over with.
Yeah.
So,
interesting.
kind of once you get it figured out, there's a couple things you could do. You could kind of do the nomadic thing, travel around. You could buy a house. You could get an apartment. South Dakota, turns out, is a domicile state, which means you can get plates for your vehicle or RV and legally have it listed as your state of residence. You don't have to live there. You don't have to have a mailing address. And on your driver's license, your address wouldn't be listed at all. So that limits your
Interesting.
chances of your address getting leaked
Yeah.
by some, you know. So
Leaker.
that way you can live somewhere else. You can be in an RV, go from city to city, and
Cool.
domicile state. It's very interesting. Also, it was created for like snowbirds, basically, that want to travel around in their RV.
Sure.
So, but you can take
Checks out.
advantage of it if you want to disappear.
If you're trying to disappear. I love that.
Exactly. If you want to buy a home under your name, it will be in the public record online, and there's free people search websites. Like, I'm learning, the more I dig into this, the more creeped out I am that like all your information is basically public,
It's
and
just
everybody
out there.
sells your data and your information online. It's very freaky, and I guess we'll get more to the data later. But if you want to buy a home without ever giving your real name, it's possible.
Oh.
And a lot of my research is from a guy named Michael Basil, who worked for the FBI for about 10 years, and now he helps high-profile people and celebrities and people in tough situations disappear. So this is like what he does.
Sure.
And he said he's been in a part of house closings where the real owner of the house never gave their real name to anybody or wrote it or anything, which is very interesting. So here's how you do that. You buy the home under a trust and make the trustee someone other than you. So they're the person that signs all the paperwork. They can do it digitally. They won't own the home. They're just authorized to make decisions about the trust. And so that way it's not in your name. If you want to try and make them somebody who doesn't share your last name, somebody who you trust but is not
kind of unrelated.
Easily tied to you. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then get a cashier's check or wire the money for the house from the trust's bank account. Obviously, you have to be rich to do this to be able to pay for a house in cash.
Well, I'm out.
No, you has made a lot doing spy work in the Netherlands. So
yeah, Benson's
Right?
doing good.
yeah.
Yep, that's right.
So let's just say you can buy it in cash. If not, it's going to be difficult to hide your information.
Interesting.
It's not going to be as effective if you have to get a loan because the bank is going to have your information, and apparently it's just a lot more difficult. I don't know if impossible to make sure all your information stays secret.
Yeah.
If you do like the loan route. But anyway, you can buy a house without ever having to put your name or connect your name to the address at all. They say it's best to have a house with an attached garage. That way you can hide the car if somebody comes prowling.
Checks
It's
out.
not out there,
Yep.
right? And then if you want to make a quick escape, you can load up all your stuff in your car and zip out.
Get out of there. Yeah.
So you're rich, remember, so you can get a house with an attached garage, no problem.
Yeah. Easy. Light work.
If you weren't, for some reason, you can rent the home, and the taxes are not in your name. And apparently it's not too terribly difficult to pull it off without giving ID. Like it's possible.
Yeah.
But if your landlord needs your information, it's definitely possible to avoid your address getting out to the public, like online, basically, onto the public record. So it's difficult to do it, but you can.
Possible.
An alias, I learned it's not illegal to use an alias in everyday life unless you're using it to evade the law or using it to commit fraud. So
Okay.
similar to disappearing, you can just change your name and just tell
That's
people
fun.
your name is Benson.
Yeah. You don't know my real spy name.
Yeah. Oh, you have like your name is a double agent. You have two layers on layers on layers.
Alias within aliases. Yep.
That's kind of cool, actually.
Yeah.
So I guess you can kind of just think about it as a nickname, Benson. And they say if you're going to change your name or get an alias, make it not too far from your name. So if it's like Caleb Fitzwater, just change Caleb different last name. And that way, if somebody's like, Caleb, you don't like instinctually turn around.
Sure.
If it's like, if you had changed your name to something else besides Caleb, if someone says Caleb, you turn your name around or your head around. That's normal because Caleb,
still
whatever.
Clear.
All right.
That's interesting.
So that's a little fun fact on a little guide on how to pick an alias. Use your first name, basically. Unless you have like a really unique first name. Change it up a little bit.
Yeah.
So there's that. Phone. What do you think about how you would go about using and having a phone?
Well, you'd have to get rid of the one you have, for sure.
Definitely.
Just too much data attached to it. And then you'd want to get a new phone, maybe with like an what are those called?
eSIM.
eSIM, yeah. Maybe with one of those that you can do online. And I would probably opt for a dumb phone just to be safe.
That's a good idea.
That's all I got.
Yeah. Not too far off. You can also get a Faraday bag. Do you know what this is?
Like a Faraday cage, but for your phone.
What's a Faraday cage?
You don't know what a
Faraday, like a Faraday
cage
bag
is? Yeah. We're probably just talking about the same thing.
Okay. It's basically you put your phone into it and it prevents cell signals from going out and attaching to a tower, basically.
It's
so it hides your phone.
A cage is the same thing, but people build them for like doomsday preppers who are like they're going to release an EMP. They build Faraday cages so that if an EMP goes off, the electro whatevers wouldn't get in there.
Oh, interesting.
I know stuff.
So this is. Are you a prepper?
No. I like to talk about it. I think it's fun. It's a fun subject.
If you were as rich as Benson, would you put a little bunker in your backyard underground?
I think it would be cool. Even just for everyday life, like have a secret little something where you have to push the right keys on the keyboard to get to. Just mostly for fun.
Pull the right book on the bookshelf or something.
Exactly.
Yeah. Mostly just to put the TV there because it's cool.
Yeah. I wouldn't do much prepping. It would just be like, check out this room. You didn't know it was there.
Yeah, you would like show everybody. Come here, come check this out.
Hey, come look at this.
Okay, I got to get going because obviously if you're going to disappear, there's a lot to do and we don't have a ton of time. Okay.
A lot for you to teach me. Yeah.
Throw your phone in a Faraday bag. If anyone else comes over, they got to throw it in the Faraday bag. Even before you get home, like a few miles from home, when you're at like a busy intersection, throw your phone in there. Don't take it out until you get back to that intersection or a few miles from home. So if somebody is tracking it, they're not going to find your house. You can also, they say you could take out the SIM card, but you can still call 911 if your SIM card is not in, which means it's not completely detached from cell towers.
Yeah, and we're looking for 100%.
Exactly. You're trying not to die here. So apparently you could get some information because your cell provider knows where your phone is at all times as long as it's connected to a tower. And apparently this guy, Michael Basil, said $300 to a bounty hunter will get information from providers like AT&T.
What?
I couldn't find anything to back that up, but he says it. I'll believe it.
I'm with them.
You can also somebody probably who works for a phone provider, you could bribe if you wanted to find somebody.
Totally. Yeah.
And in situations where there's like domestic abuse and there's like a spouse is trying to find their spouse, being married is harder to hide from your spouse because you have more rights of like, I can get into this account because we're married, basically.
Yep.
So he's talking about situations where it was a wife was running on the run from her husband. So he was crazy and chasing after her and she was not safe. And I was like, that would be such a horrible situation. You would definitely want to disappear after that.
Yeah, seriously.
So what Michael Basil does at home is he doesn't use his phone. Like, how does he communicate? He uses secure communication apps on his computer, but he has an iPod Touch that he still uses.
Nice.
Which I was like, I haven't heard the word iPod in years. But this guy still uses it as he stays secure. You can also get a bunch of burner phones, kind of like you mentioned, some dumb phones. Or there's services online you can get up to 9 cell phone numbers, and use those like from your computer.
Sure.
If you split up your phone numbers, if one gets compromised, ditch it. You can still have the other ones.
Got other options. Interesting.
Yes, exactly. Vehicles. You can buy a vehicle under a trust or an LLC and just buy it from a guy cash.
Sure.
Trade cash for title. Keep
No
it
names
simple.
attached.
You can buy it from a dealership. They legally have to get your ID. There's a way around it. Basically, just if you don't have to go to a dealership, don't.
Sure.
But
you
can buy a car.
Stick to Craigslist. It's going to be a lot easier.
Exactly. Facebook Marketplace, it'll work.
Yeah.
I told you last week, I think on the nightclub, the car that we have now, I bought with Venmo.
Which is just so fun.
So fun. Which I probably
would
would not be good in this situation, but
yeah. Yeah,
it's
maybe
pretty
stay off of
traceable.
Venmo.
At least set it to private mode,
At least. You should be completely secure if it's on private.
Should be fine. Any questions so far? I got a few more things, and then we'll wrap it up.
No, I'm tracking.
Okay, sounds good. License plates. If you don't want somebody to track your license plate, you can take it off. Just attach strong magnets to where the license plate goes, and then if you're on private roads or you're parked, you can take your license plate off and carry it with you, or like hide it in the car.
So much work.
You could do that if you get on somebody's driveway. I don't know. As long as you're not driving on a public road, you don't have to have the license plate on.
Sure.
Might make you feel better. Some people do that because at places like McDonald's, the drive-through, they'll scan your license plate and offer customized menus to you based on what you've ordered before, because they attach your card, the card you've paid with, to your license plate. And
that's kind of insane.
If that information gets leaked, then somebody could find, which, I mean, to a degree, everything will get leaked. You just have to think about it like that.
Yeah.
Where somebody could track you down somehow. There's lots of breadcrumbs that we leave all the time. So that's kind of why somebody would take off their license plate on going through a McDonald's drive-through. Yeah, it would be horrible to have to do this.
Exhausting.
And insurance, apparently, car insurance is one of the hardest things to keep completely private.
Okay.
But usually doesn't end up on public websites unless there's a big hack or something.
Yeah.
But apparently there's not not too much you can do about that.
Sure.
Unless you just ride the bus and don't have a car. You could do that, I guess, if you're
that's a possibility
about it.
Yeah.
Exactly. Payment, you can create virtual debit cards under any name using privacy.com, and each one is pulled from your bank account. But if one gets compromised, no big deal. Just cancel it. Open up a new fake debit card. Yeah.
Well, that's cool.
And under any name, which is kind of interesting. It's a service that costs. Employment, if you're trying to get a job, most employees don't need a physical address, and you could just use like a mailing address, like a P.O. box or something. But if they do, you can open up an LLC, even if you're doing like DoorDash or something, start a business, use your EIN, your employer identification number, rather than your social security number.
Smart.
And that's one step to keeping you hidden from people in the Netherlands.
I forgot I was hiding from the Netherlands.
Yeah.
Got to stay focused.
Could be anywhere. Yeah, you're not going to last long if you're not focused, Benson.
Who's after me? I don't remember.
Okay, and then some basic practices for cybersecurity. Here's a couple stats for you. Millennials are a larger target for identity theft than elderly people because they're more online, more chronically online, basically. So people with heavy online presence are 30% higher risk than people who are less active online, which makes sense. The more active you are online, the more likely it is that you'll be targeted for an identity theft attack or just a hack. Additionally, 9 out of 10 cybersecurity breaches are caused by simple mistakes such as clicking on fraudulent links that look real but are not. So that's also a big thing. Even if you're not trying to disappear, be smart about the links you click on. Exactly. Yeah. Try not to get scammed.
Do your best.
But good luck. The more I read too, the more scary it is. Like, oh, how is this possible to completely remove yourself? There is a workbook. I'll actually link it below. It's kind of interesting. Put out by Michael Basil of 210 websites that could potentially have your information in one form or another, and you go through one by one, either calling them or going to their website and saying, opt me out of, like, basically remove all my information.
Yeah.
So that is the best way to get rid of all your information online is one by one to all these websites. Crazy. You can freeze your credit with all your credit report companies. If you think somebody's coming after you that way, I don't completely understand why that would be helpful, but it is apparently, and it's free.
Something. Yeah.
They also say for every account you make on any website, make a different email and a different password, so that if one gets compromised, doesn't matter.
You're not. Yeah, that makes sense.
And then, use two-factor authentication. Don't recycle passwords. Don't share be careful that you post online. Don't get a social media, or just don't even delete your social media. Just don't ever log into it again.
Just leave it alone.
Is what they say. Yeah. Leave it alone. Basically, don't. I don't know, if you're trying to disappear, I'm sure there's a level where you're willing to go offline a certain amount.
Yeah.
And you only can be offline a certain amount these days, just because so much of our data gets, like, if you go to the dentist,
you're in.
If they use a scheduling app, that's going to be used. They're going to use a third-party app to schedule you in, to do, like, send you an automatic text like, hey, come in, get your cleaning.
Yep.
So that's somebody else that has your information. Even if you trust the dentist, that's a third-party app that has your information that potentially...
My information's everywhere. I haven't tried very hard.
Yeah, I haven't either. You can actually go to haveibeenpwned.com and you Google that. Don't put in the URL because it's pwned is spelled weird. But you put in your email and they'll tell you what security breaches you've been a part of that email has been associated with.
Yeah. Nice.
And it's one of those things. It's like, once you start realizing how spread out your data is, you're like, I think it's just too late.
Yeah. I'm just, this is us. This is who I am now.
Yeah. That's about it. Do you have any questions before I wrap up? Anything?
I don't think so. So first thing, get a temporary home, and then you're getting rid of your data. So you're dumping your phone, getting a new hookup. Then you're finding a way to pay, online debit cards, that type of thing. Mm-hmm. Sounds like forming an LLC is going to be a good, helpful thing for a variety of
and a trust. Or a trust would be better, apparently.
Trust. Oh, yeah. That makes sense. And then, the rest of it's just suspiciously looking up at grainy security cameras every so often, like they do in the movies.
Yeah.
They're like trying to stay off the grid, but then they stare at every camera just for a second.
Yeah. I was thinking too about like getting facial reconstructive surgery and like plastic surgery to just change the way you look.
Altogether,
And that costs. I read it starts out at like $2,000. It was. I couldn't get like a hard number on how much it would cost to change change what your face looked like.
That's not as pricey as I was thinking it would be, though.
No, I think that's just like basic. Like if you wanted to get lip filler or something.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know.
Maybe just change your
Some
hair
kind of
color
Botox.
and like if you have long hair, get it short. If you have short hair, grow it out.
Yeah,
Don't have a beard, get a beard. You know.
Put on an eye patch. You know.
Get a nose
Easy
ring.
stuff.
It's just small, simple things.
Yeah. Septum piercing.
Face tattoo. It's just precautionary, really.
Maybe shave your eyebrows. Simple. Just basics that wouldn't cost you much.
Pull a tooth.
Overall, I was trying to figure out like a price. How much would it cost to completely disappear?
Sure.
Too hard to say. Some people have a ton of money and are able to do it. Some people don't have a ton of money and are able to make it work out okay.
Yeah.
More money you have, the better,
like,
but that's about it.
Are you buying a house or are you staying in this rundown parking garage, you know?
Yeah, are you squatting somewhere?
Yeah, you can make whatever work.
You could potentially do it. I mean, like Patrick McDermott, the guy at the beginning of the story, he just left everything.
He's just like, I'll just leave it there.
Yeah, I'll just figure it out. They say that he hopped on some boat, some cruise ship, and just started working as like a dishwasher or something, and just was getting paid under the table, and then would switch boats and just hung out in Central America. And I guess that's how he did it.
That's wild. That is wild. Yeah. From the Learn Me Something crew to the listeners, please don't disappear unless your life's in danger.
Yes. Again, don't do this. Just it's interesting to learn about.
Yeah. One more precautionary. Please don't.
Yeah.
But it is fun to know.
If I gave you any ideas, I take it back. Just for entertainment purposes only. If you feel like you need to disappear, go talk to somebody. Seriously.
Yeah. And if you really feel like you need to disappear, hopefully these tips have helped you.
Yeah. If your life is in danger, I don't know why you're listening to this. Snap your phone right now.
Well, probably SEO wise, someone could have gone onto the podcast app, whatever, Spotify, and been like, how to disappear. And now they're listening to this one episode of Learn Me Something. You've just become a resource to all people who are at the final stage of disappearing.
Sure. They probably realize pretty quickly they should find a different podcast to listen to.
Maybe we should look up this other guy that Josiah keeps talking about.
Yeah, Michael Basil, the place that he gets all his information. We just listen to his podcast.
Yeah, but ours had jokes, so something.
And the Great Emu War.
That's true. They probably were super confused for the first half of this episode. Like, what this was going to be about.
Am I supposed to go to Australia and like join the emus?
First step, join the Australian military.
Okay, that's about all I got. How to disappear. The punishment. Go vote. If you're listening, we love when people vote that have actually listened to the entire episode and don't just vote just for funsies. But if you voted, we appreciate or if you listen to the whole thing, we appreciate a vote.
Yeah, while you're thinking about it.
Yeah, it's linked below. You can do it while we're talking in the background. The punishment is the loser of this episode will have to go vegan for 3 days. So no eggs. And this is hard because we're very animal product people, both of us.
Yeah, we're not. I'm not very vegan at all.
Mm-mm. I only wear leather, actually.
Yeah.
I don't know if you could hear all the squeaking back here. So that's, I know a lot of people there's probably a vegan listening to this and they're like, that's not a punishment. You should do that anyway.
It's
but for us it is.
Yeah, it's a stark
Okay.
contrast in current lifestyle, which is what makes it punishy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There you go. Go vote.
Yeah.
That's all I got. You got anything?
That's all I got. I got nothing else. I gave it all with the emu story, so I'm ready. I'm ready to get out of here.
You gave it your all. You're exhausted. All right, I'm so excited to go eat something instead of drinking.
Yes.
I'm gonna have some
go
toast.
Enjoy.
I'm excited to eat some toast.
Eat something that crunches in your teeth. Yeah, toast is perfect.
Oh, so good. So good.
Enjoy your freedoms.
All right, Larry.
All right, Josiah. Yeah.
Me?
Oh no. I was gonna ask you to ask Larry to wrap it up, but you're ahead of me.
Larry, just go ahead and play us out.